For most people, The Dark Knight is their favourite film in Nolan's Batman trilogy. This is usually followed by Begins, and in last place, Rises. I'm here to tell you why I disagree. The concluding chapter isn't perfect, but it's my favourite, and here are 7 reasons why. The Dark Knight might have given Batman significant screen time, but the story focused more on the mob, the Joker, and Dent. Batman was somewhat secondary and forced to chase his tail as one chaotic scenario emerged after the next. By contrast, in Rises, Bruce Wayne goes on a journey from broken recluse to triumphant hero, and it's one of the most fully formed and compelling arcs in the series. Bruce begins the story hanging on by a figurative thread. He is merely existing. But once confined to Bane's prison, he knows what he's lost and what he wants to regain. By acknowledging that he fears death, he acknowledges that he desires to live. Bruce's ability to rise back up is the central focus of the film, and it's in contrast to Talia and Bane, who are nihilistic and hell-bent on their own suicide. Talia, of course, was the only other person to escape the pit, and she did this as a young girl. As an adult, she has become corrupted by her father's vision of the world, and has a damaging need for vengeance. You could interpret the subtext as follows: children are idealistic and filled with hope, and these are virtues we should try and preserve well into adulthood. If Batman Begins is about overcoming fear, and The Dark Knight is about confronting chaos, and The Dark Knight Rises is about hope, it's in the name Rises after all. This is the most optimistic and inspirational story of the series, and the mere fact that Bruce saves himself at the end is a fitting reminder that life is worth living. While he's not as iconic as the Joker, Bane brings the sort of physicality Batman hasn't faced before, and it's enough to break his spirit. Bane also has the courage of his convictions and an unwavering dedication to his plan, unlike the Joker before him. While The Dark Knight very much tells a story in isolation, only pausing to wrap up a few loose ends in its opening minutes, The Dark Knight Rises is keen to provide closure and regularly makes nods to the previous films. It brings an end to Ra's al Ghul's story. It deals with the fallout from Dent's death, and it wraps up subplots that have bubbled away throughout the series. For instance, Alfred finally gets a happy ending, Gordon learns the identity of his biggest ally, the Batman is appropriately honoured, the League of Shadows is defeated, and most importantly, Bruce is finally able to move on. Rises gets short shrift, primarily because it isn't The Dark Knight. There's no Joker, no Heath Ledger, no standout acting performance. Instead, you have a solid ensemble, an enjoyable story, the best set pieces of the trilogy, and a whole lot more. It's a film that's more than the sum of its parts, and while it's not as easily quotable as meme-ready, this is nonetheless fantastic viewing. Of course, there are problems. For instance, why is the entire police force stupid enough to get trapped underground? Why doesn't Fox flood the reactor instead of handing over the bomb? How does Bruce escape the pit and arrive back in Gotham so quickly? That said, the reality is that The Dark Knight asks you to take the same logical leaps of faith. How is the Joker able to rig a hospital full of explosives within an hour of deciding he wants Coleman Reese dead? How is Batman able to stop the Joker and then immediately get to Dent in the very next scene? Why does the Joker use Dent's DNA to name him as a victim, arrive at Bruce's penthouse to take him out, then claim later that his plan all along was to bring Dent down to his level? The Joker is not a schemer, he says, but he has surprises in store at every turn, and yet he's just a dog chasing cars, so which is it? There's also too much going on. In the final act, we get a new bad guy, Harvey Dent Two-Face, who now has a double-sided coin to match. The Dark Knight, I argue, would have been a lot stronger had it held off on showing Dent's descent into madness. The Joker on his own is strong enough of a presence, and I can't help but feel that the writers were trying to land too many storylines at once. That the Joker is unpredictable is just a convenient excuse to keep inserting new scenarios into the script. By contrast, I think Rises is more tightly plotted. There's a clear 3-act structure that sees Batman return, face confinement, and then truly embrace his role as Gotham's savior. Finally, the music. Every score in the series is of course excellent, but I love the chanting in the film that symbolizes Bruce's ability to rise up against adversity. Deshi Basara is the chant that fills the pit as he makes the final climb.
What does that mean?
Rise.
There's something utterly symbolic about this climb, from the depths of hell to salvation. Yes, it's slightly on the nose, but it works. In the end, of course, it's a matter of preference, and Rises is guilty of dragging its feet in the middle, but I still think it's a story in the franchise that does the most to serve the fans, tie up story beats, and act as a fully fledged finale to the events that preceded it.